World. It's awesome. WAGSY'S World. WAGSY'S World. Have some fun. WAGSY'S World. WAGSY'S World. Like and subscribe.
Hey everyone, I'm WAGSY. Welcome to WAGSY'S World. Boy, we've got a great subject today. One of my favorites, Stevie Wonder. What makes Stevie Wonder great? Let's get right into it. Stevie was born in 1950 in Saginaw, Michigan. His real name, Stevland Judkins. Stevie Wonder sounds a lot better. Stage name, of course. You know, Stevie became blind very shortly after birth. I think it was a matter of a week or so in the hospital. Now, Stevie was singing in the church choir at 5 years old. He became billed as Little Stevie Wonder when he was signed by Berry Gordy and Motown Records. He was only 11 years old when they signed him at Motown. And he released his first album in 1962, so he was only 12 years old. Now, off that album, Fingertips became a #1 hit. And at 13, he was the youngest to ever chart a #1 song. Now, through the 60s, he had a lot of hit songs, a lot of great music. He did music festivals, and he had a couple of small movie roles as well. But when the 70s came, that's when his talent was put on full display to the world, really. His singing, his writing, his playing, and also being on other famous people's records, whether it would be playing or singing. This is how good the 70s were for Stevie Wonder and us by listening to it. 1973 album, Intervisions. 1974 album, Fulfillingness, First Finale. 1976 album, Songs in the Key of Life. What do those three albums have in common? They won the Grammy for Record of the Year, Album of the Year. 3 consecutive albums of the year. No one has ever done that, had or has. Only the great Frank Sinatra had 3 albums of the year, Grammy albums of the year, and they were not consecutive. Now, speaking of Grammys for Stevie Wonder, he had 25 Grammys and also the Lifetime Grammy. Now, when we get to the 80s for Stevie, it was his commercial years. He had tons of hits and duets with famous artists, very famous artists, the big ones. He did We Are the World. He was very prominent in that song and video and the whole movement of it, We Are the World. He really became a superstar in the 80s to everyone, not just R&B, not even just pop, everyone. He was a superstar. Now, the 90s through basically now, he's remained very active. He's done albums, quite a few soundtrack songs, and concerts consistently for the last 25 years. Now, let's get into some of his other stats. 23 studio albums, 91 singles, 91. He's had 10 #1 songs, and he's had 20 #1 songs on the R&B charts. He sold over 1 million albums. He's a writer, singer, producer, and plays several instruments. He can play any kind of keyboard, any kind of drum or percussion, and he's great on the harmonica. He's won an Academy Award for The Woman in Red. I just called to say. You guys know it. He's in the Songwriter, Music, Rock, R&B Hall of Fame. He's in 4 Hall of Fames. Now, as far as the critics and Stevie Wonder, they feel he helped drive R&B music into the album era of the 70s, whether it be concept albums or just the radio album play. He drove R&B into that. He was a pioneer with pop, R&B, funk, soul, rock, and he blended all those into one song. So he pioneered that, mixing genres. Many critics feel no one has ever created a more defining and innovative period of music than Stevie Wonder did from 1972 to 1976. His classic period. They feel no other artist for four or 5 years created such innovative music in history. Now me, why do I think Stevie Wonder's great? A lot of these same reasons. And then for me, it was Songs in the Key of Life. I loved his teenage music. It was cool. It was kind of like 50s rock with a little bit of update on it. But I liked his teen music, and I loved his 80s music. So a lot of big commercial hits. But for me, the 70s period, and specifically the Songs in the Key of Life, I never get tired of listening to that album. And almost all those songs I can hear over and over again. I mean, Sir Duke, Another Star, I Wish, As, that's my favorite song of Stevie Wonder, As. Isn't She Lovely? Pastime Paradise. I mean, and I could go on, but I named 5 or 6 that are just mega hits and unbelievably produced and sung songs. The album is inspiring, joyful, positive, and then challenging and life evaluating at the same time. It's examining, his life from a certain point of view, where he grew up, basically in the Detroit, Michigan area. But a very positive album. I love his vocals, his vocal range, his phrasing, scatting, he scats. His writing, his funky playing, whatever instrument's on is always nice and funky. If I have one regret, thinking about Stevie Wonder here, if I have one regret, is that I didn't get to see him live and in concert during the 80s and 90s. I really regret that. He's one of my favorites of all time. He's a true gift to music. And that's why Stevie Wonder is great. Thank you very much, folks. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
WAGSY'S World, WAGSY'S World, it's awesome. WAGSY'S World, WAGSY'S